Hey everyone, thanks for watching this video today. Today's video is going to be about proper squat techniques, why this exercise is the king of all exercises when it comes to anything to do with athletic performance, daily goals in the gym, pretty much anything you can think of. The squat is one of the best primal movements that you can do. Why I say this, it involves pretty much every single muscle in the body firing at once. So we're going to be starting from different variations, working from a beginner stance all the way into an advanced stance. So what I mean by this, progression. A common mistake that people make when they first enter the gym is they don't know where to start. When you think about squats, you want to think about everything that's being engaged. The quadriceps, the front of the legs, hamstrings, the back of the legs, these are the primary movers for our lower body. So it's very, very strict that we get the form down right. So in this video, I'm going to show you a proper way to bring you from the beginner stance all the way to an advanced stance, and you'll be squatting in no time. So let's get to it. Okay, so this is going to be the first variation that I show anyone that I've ever worked in the past. So you got to remember the squat. This can be used for athletic performance, everyday gym goers. Pretty much the squat is an everyday movement that we do in our everyday life, and it can benefit us. So the first thing I want to get to do is a lot of people think that you have to squat to depth. Knowing that when I say depth to a 90 degrees, that my knees are in line with my butt to make that 90-degree angle. Some people, there's mobility issues, stability issues, flexibility. So you got to remember too, people, they pick and they start from a different variation and they start from a different background. So you got to remember too, if you're an office worker, some people are tight in their hips, a lot of people are tight in their glutes. So to really activate your glutes during this exercise is one of the most beneficial things. A, to avoid lower back pain, especially when you're rowing with barbell, and B, to really engage your lower body. So what I'm going to get you guys to do first, you can do this with a chair. What we have here is just a bench. So the first thing I get the people to do is just stand in a neutral stance. So shoulder width apart. Very easy to attain. That would just say shoulder width stance. The next thing I really want you guys to focus on here, we're going a little bit ahead of ourselves here, is before I sit down, I want to kick my hips back. So what this does is I'm driving my hips back. It keeps my spine in a neutral stance, so nice and straight. Think of every movement we do, we're coming down, keeping that straight movement, driving up and squeezing our glutes, okay? So when I get this variation to go, is I say, stand up tall, just come back, sit down, and I want you to sit. What this pause does, A, it gives the person the ability to find out where their depth is, B, to really figure out where to put the pressure in their feet. So a lot of people think you have to put the pressure in the midfoot. What I want you to really realize, planting your feet on the ground, keeping that point of contact on the big toe and the back of the heel, I literally think like cement is going over my feet and I can't move. You want that stable base from the bottom to work our way up. So this variation here, I would start off, come straight up, all the way down. So this would be our first variation that I would get the person to do. Also too, breathing is very important too in an exercise like this, especially for power when it translates into the barbell movement. You want to think of anytime my body is generating force, I'm coming down, my muscles are contracting. That is when I should be breathing in. So I'm coming straight up, breathing in, breathing out to expel that force. Next variation, practice, get the form down. Think of results driven is based off of form. Okay, so the next stance, we're going to do a bodyweight squat. Okay, same principles apply. I'm going to kick my hips back. I'm driving down, straight up, squeeze my glutes. Really take the time here. You can mess with tempo for intensity. You can mess with tempo. You can mess with speed. You can mess with the breathing. You can do all these different things to make the exercise harder. Next variation, so say if I got my squats down, knees are traveling out, everything's in line. I'm not cinching forward, keep my shoulders back. This next exercise is known as a goblet hold squat. So you can grab anything, any type of weight, anything that's going to keep you from dipping yourself forward. So when I have a weight, for example, holding here, the goblet hold, what it does is it's going to want me to tilt my body forward. So the whole point is I want to drive my hips back. I want to keep that tall, neutral position. So this is that progression I was telling you about to really progress the exercise. Okay? So we're here. Simple cues. Keep the dumbbell always close to the body. What this does is engaging our core. By engaging our core here, we're acting for our abs, doing a lot of work. That's what I was telling you. The squat is one of the king exercises for full body. So we're gonna kick our hips back, we're gonna come down, drive up and squeeze. Really focus on tempo in our breathing. So as you can see, exercise selection is just taking the basics, moderating as you go. You know, these 3 steps, this might take someone a month, but you're taking your time to fully get the form down. It's all about building your form and technique to the final product. The last exercise we're gonna go through today is the barbell squat. So I'm gonna get set up, I'm gonna show you all the different setups for it, but remember those key principles that I told you at the beginning of the video. Okay, so this is the final progression that I'm showing you guys today. I would not recommend doing a barbell squat if you haven't been training for more than 3 months. Depending on where your progressions are and your base of form, this is kind of one of the exercises where you have to really think about shoulder mobility too. Because think about it, when I'm holding the bar, for example, a lot of people can't get their shoulders to that 90-degree angle, which causes them to dip forward. So remember these principles, keeping a tight core, keeping everything upright. So let's say everything's good, we're ready to go. Our squat is to a point where we feel comfortable. So what I'm going to guys recommend to do, the squat rack here, we don't have the safety guard. So I'd always recommend you, if you're going to squat with a barbell, to squat inward to the squat rack. I know that may sound, you know, but like a lot of people make that mistake, they squat out of it just in case for safety issues, right? 2, we always want to make sure we set the bar to a chest level. By doing this, it's making sure that we get that nice stable base at the top. At this point, that we're nice and stable. It's all about your setup. So the setup is a major important thing before you even lift the bar up. So let's say everything's good to go. What I'd recommend you to do, shoulder width stance, okay? So there's 2 different variations where we can do for barbell placement. One of the most important things, if you're starting off, I'd recommend a high bar squat. So what I mean by this is you're gonna have the bar right along above the traps, just like the normal. See how my arms are at a 90-degree angle, wrists, everything's nice and straight, nice and stable. For someone who's a little bit more advanced, you know, say for powerlifting purposes, and if you want to get into a little bit more strength training, somewhat this is a little bit more restrictive to loading a little bit more weight, the low bar stance, a little bit below the traps, but it allows you to get a better degree of angle. But the only thing is, doing this can cause you to dip forward too much. So I'd recommend starting with the hard bar placement first, work your way through it, get used to using a barbell, and then you go from there. So like I said, we're starting off. What I recommend you to do, come in. When you're coming in, I want you to make sure it's nice and secure at the top. So you have that nice stable base at the top, the 90-degree angle here, making sure everything's nice and tight, okay? So before I even pick that bar up, I want to make sure I'm nice and tight at the top. I stand up, okay? When I feel comfortable, I'm going to take 2 steps back, okay? This is where all those simple principles that we talked about at the beginning of the video come into play. So finding my depth and my position of my feet, okay? Make sure everything at the top is tight. Breathing techniques come into play too. First thing we're going to do before we squat is always dip our hips back just to get into that starting position, keeping everything neutral. Take a deep breath in, separating the ground, coming straight back up, squeezing our glutes. But the difference is here, you have to make sure you're maintaining that straight line. So think about any squat movement, the bar should be traveling in a straight line as I'm performing the exercise with safety. And when you're done, make sure you always walk it in nice and complete, okay? So this video is more like on a brief overview of the squat variations that you can start with and work your way through. Like I said, if you have any questions, let me know. So I'm going to be releasing other videos on mobility, good dynamic warm-ups for your squat variations, and a proper way to do these proper exercises in a lower body exercise setting. So if you have any other questions, let me know. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next video.